Welcome back to the channel. So this is going to be a multi-part episode where I do the final sort of a revision to the Stratocaster CNC machine files and tutorials. This is going to be the final update. I'm going to do the guitar neck as well with the fretboard. Even going to show how you go into Fusion 360 to do your 3D modeling, which is what I ended up doing for this project because Aspire just couldn't quite do the contours the way I wanted them to, especially on the neck. Was having all kinds of trouble with that. So this is going to be the final tutorial that I do on this, and then I'm going to move on to some other guitar types like Telecaster and SG and a Les Paul. And I'm going to run through, I'm going to do an actual build, with these files to make sure that everything works the way it's supposed to. And then if there's any issues, I'll go back and make some updates or edits to the tutorials. So let's get going. Okay, so I'm working in Vectric Aspire 11.5. 12 is out, but that is a whole number revision forward. And so basically you have to pay. You can get it if you already have Aspire or like VCarve or something like that. You can get an upgrade, I think, at a reduced cost, but I just haven't done that yet because I don't use this very much. So I think 11.5 is still fairly relevant, so we're going to be working with that. So go ahead and open Aspire, and then you're going to want to get on the internet. So jump on your browser, go to Google and search for Electric Herald. And this is where you're going to be able to find all the guitar templates. So Electric Herald, and you want to go here to Guitar Templates Archive. And you want to scroll down to the bottom, near the bottom. Actually, I think it's on page 2. Let's check. Yep, there it is. Fender Stratocaster templates. So you want to click on that, and you're going to want PDF format because those are vector graphics as opposed to like a bitmap. That means they consist of lines, like an EPS file or something that you would do in Illustrator where the lines are actual lines. It's not pixels, if that makes sense. So there's a few different models in here. And the one that I'm going to direct you to use are these here. The Stratocaster body front, and you'll know it's the right one because it says Scala 1.1, because I think this is Swedish or something, I can't remember. Same, and then the next part is the back here. And then there's a neck, but then there's headstocks here, and then a full model here with the frets and everything, and then a diagram of a very detailed like schematic, and then here's another one with the neck. You can download those two and use them as reference, but this one here is going to be the easiest to use because it brings in a closed shape, where the other ones have little tiny lines to create the outline of the guitar, where these have, I think they're like Bezier curves, but I mean it's a continuous curve. That's important when you're importing it into Vectric, because you want, that's the path that your tool on your CNC machine is going to take. So you don't want it broken up into little tiny, almost like dashes. So go ahead and download this. It's a PDF file, so it'll probably open it, depending on your browser, it'll probably open it in Adobe PDF Reader. So I'm going to start a brand new project here. Okay, and we'll save that PDF. And all these files will be available on in the description, I'm going to upload everything to a Google Drive, which will be shared out, so you can just go there and get everything if you want. Or you can go to Electric Herald and download whatever it is you want or need there. If you're going to work on a different type of guitar, then that's the best place to go to get. And it's all completely free. These are all freely available templates. Okay, so we have the body front and back. And then I'm going to download this here, this Stratocaster 62 body front profile. This is basically a blueprint. It's basically a schematic of the guitar itself. And while it's broken up, I mean, there's a lot of lines and stuff in here that you'd have to delete and get rid of and everything. It has like depths for all the pockets and the contours and things like that, radiuses. So this is a really good reference to download. So we're going to download that as well. Okay. And then as far as the neck goes, that is a little trickier because there aren't really good reference files for necks on the internet. So this one here is probably your best for the neck, because the headstock is pretty good. It shows cross-section views of, you know, the C shape and everything. So this is probably the one you're going to want to download. And it's got the fret positions and all that good stuff too. So okay. So let's get rid of those browser tabs. We'll leave Electric Herald open, and we are in Vectric Aspire, and we're going to start with the body. So we're going to create a new file, and we're double-sided, and we're going to be working in inches. So that's what I know, sorry. So let's see. So our thickness is going to be 1.75, so 1 3/4 inches. And the height of my blank is 16, and the width is 20. And my datum position, I do lower left. Z0 position, material surface. And then I flip horizontal. And then I use this high 3 times for modeling. That doesn't really seem to do much. I've played around with it. Very high. It says 3 times slower and everything. None of that seems to affect anything. I don't know why, if I'm just doing something wrong or if it just doesn't have the effect that they think it does. So I'm going to choose mahogany light for the material and hit OK. Okay, so there's our blank basically. So now we're going to want to go File, Import Vectors, because the PDF file is a vector file. So we're going to do this Fender Stratocaster 62 PDF first and bring that in. And there's a lot of information on there, so it could take some time depending on your machine. And as you can see, it's quite large. So we're going to want to come over here to Transform Mode, Move, and see how you can see the cursor changes to like a bullseye almost when you go over a line. Well, that's what you want, because you want to be able to move this. And you want to move it so that your guitar body is on your blank. And you don't have to worry about it being too, you know, positioned exactly right, because this is just a reference. So we're going to turn this layer off and on as we need it. So we'll leave it black And we're going to call this, we'll rename it, right click to rename, and we'll just go schematic. And then I like to delete empty layers because I don't want a lot of clutter. And then you might as well just go ahead and turn this off because we're not really going to use it that much. And the only reason I really kind of move it so that the guitar body part is centered on the material is so you can see it pretty good. Otherwise, you don't have to really worry about it. And actually, you don't even have to import it in if you want to use it just as a PDF file and have it open on your desktop and refer back to it. That's fine. I just find it a little easier to reference things inside of Aspire. Okay, so now you want to make sure you're on, this is your top view, bottom view. And if you go to 3D view, you can see your material. Okay, so now we're going to import vectors, Strat body front. Okay, so it opens it up, and if you hover your mouse over the edge of, you can move it. And you can see this has a center line, and it seems to have snapped to the middle of the page, so that's good there. But we do want to bring it to the middle, so we're going to create a guideline, and you just right click and hit guidelines, insert vertical guideline, put it at 10 because that's half of your distance, so it should be right on 10. And then you want to, this is the center of the model or of the guitar, so you want to hover your mouse over that bullseye and move it over to the exact center of the drawing. There. So now this is centered, and you want to make sure that the guitar body is exactly centered both ways, up and down, side to side, because you're going to put guide holes in for pins so that when you flip the board horizontal to do the back, everything lines up. And those pins are going to be equal distance from the center and centered up and down. That'll make sense here in a little bit. So okay, go through and delete all this extra stuff, and you just click and drag. If you click and drag from top left down this way, like that, it will only select what's inside the bounding box, what can be completely contained in the bounding box. So as you can see, the guitar body itself is one big piece. And so when I select that little piece there, it only selects that line, because that's the only line that can be completely encapsulated in the bounding box. Now, if I go from the bottom up, so bottom right up with the bounding box, it selects whatever it touches. See that? Whether it's completely inside the bounding box or not. Those are really helpful. So, okay, we're going to leave this neck stuff here, except for the hole. Well, we'll leave the holes alone too. But what we don't need is this stuff. So we can delete all that. We can delete that little thing. Keep your center mark. We'll come back to that later. But just get rid of all this stuff that's not going to matter. So get rid of that, get rid of that. This is a drill line through. Can't do that in the CNC machine, so we'll get rid of that. Get rid of these. And this stuff, you don't need that. Don't need this. Don't need this. Don't need that line. Don't need this arc. Don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. Okay. And then this is fine. We'll leave that for now. These are your arm contours. There's two different types there. This is the one I like to use here, so we'll get rid of that one. So that's going to be sort of where it is. You can leave that for now. And then these radiuses you can get rid of. And actually these you can get rid of too. And this. And that. Leave these lines. Those are going to be important. And then we'll move the drill holes. But you can probably get rid of those center guidelines. Okay. All right, so there's all the information we want to keep. And then you're going to want to create your guidelines, but we'll do that in a second. So let's select that bullseye and the center line, and you right click over and you move to layer, new layer, and we'll call this horizontal center. Oh, actually it's both centers, it's just there's a horizontal line, so we'll call it center line. And we'll make it bright yellow. Okay, so then that is on its own layer now. Okay, so now we're going to select the outside of the body, and we can actually, that is on this import strat body, so we can actually rename that and just call it body. And we'll color that in red. And notice it colors everything in because we haven't moved those to their own layers yet. Okay, so let's do this, and then you hold shift. Once you select something, if you want to add to it, whoops, I got the center line in there. We don't want that. So click, and it selects an object, and if you hold shift, then you can add to it. So it'll select anything else that you click on. Okay, and then right click and we'll move to layer, new layer. We'll call these pickup cavities, cavity. And we'll call that green. Okay, and then this is like an extra route for wires, so we'll move that to layer, new layer, wire cavity. That's sort of an old school feature. Most modern strats don't have that there, and if you make your depth of those pickup cavities deep enough, you won't even need that. And I recommend that you make them deeper than it says on the schematic, because I've cut this out a couple times and things fit really tight in it. So okay, so we'll right click on this. This is, we'll move to layer, and this is the control cavity. It's where your volume and five-way switch goes, so we'll make that blue. And then this is your jack. Now, again, I've cut this body out a few times. The jacks that I've bought for this body really fit tight. So what I like to do is come over here to offset and do about 1/8 of an inch outwards. Offset. See, it makes it bigger by, well, actually that's a little too big. Let's do 1/16 of an inch. So let's undo that. Let's do 1/16, because then it will be 1/8, you know, overall. So 16, so 0.625 we'll call it. Okay, there we go. And you can experiment with that. I mean, it depends on the hardware that you buy. And let's see, right click, move to layer, new layer, jack cup. And we'll make that blue. Okay. So then these can be moved to their own layer. New layer. We'll call these bridge screws. And I'll make that a dark color. Okay, so now we're going to come over here to the neck pocket. So if you notice, this extends way out, and that's what you want, but we're going to cut it off right about there. But first, let's join. You notice it's in two pieces, so we'll join it together. Shift click, so you got both those pieces. Come over here to join, hit join. And if you click on it again, you notice it's all one piece. So we'll move that to layer, new layer, neck pocket. And we will call that, how about this weird orange, yellow color, olive. And then the screw holes can be moved to their own layer. And we'll call those neck screws. And then we'll do whatever, just a dark color, just to get those out of the way. Okay, so let's finish the neck pocket off. It has to be a solid shape, so we're going to come over here to this node editing mode, and then we're going to right click right about there, cut vector. Do the same down here. If you want to drag a guideline over so that they're even, you can. It's not really that important. Cut vector. And then if you come back over here to edit objects, select mode, you can click on those pieces and delete them. Then come over here to draw a line, move it till it snaps. See how it snaps to that point, and then drag it down to the next line and snap it. Right click off of it. You'll notice that's on the body layer because that's the layer we were on. So if you select that and the neck pocket, hit join, now it moves it to the neck pocket. So that's in the neck pocket. So this way, when your tool comes in, it'll overlap the edge of the neck pocket there. And then you want to do the same thing to these. You want to extend. So you want to go to your node editing again. You want to click on this, and you want to extend this out. Same with this. And it'll snap a line so that it stays in line with the path that it's on. So then you just do the same thing. And this is in multiple pieces for some reason. Oh yeah, oh, we never joined it together. So this control, or the pickup pocket or cavity, whatever you want to call it, select all those and the little piece that you just made, and then do join. And now it moved it to the body layer. You can see it turned red, so we'll move it to layer, pickup cavity. Okay, so see, you got a little overlap now, so when the tool comes out, it'll pass past the control cavity. And then you want to do the same. You don't even need this. Like I said, if you want to do it, go ahead and keep it, but I'm not going to use it, but we'll extend this anyway, just so that if you want to use it, you know that you need that extra overlap. So let's see, here we go. Okay. And join. Okay, and it moved it to the body layer. You should probably be on the layer that you're working in, but whatever. And we'll call that wire cavity. Okay, so now everything is situated. This is just going to be a guideline, so let's move that to its own layer. New layer. Arm contour, whatever you want to call it. And we'll make that just gray is fine. Okay. Okay, so now you need to do your your guide holes. So what's going to happen is your tool is going to be on the outside of this body line, and the tool that I'm using is a 1/4 inch. So let's throw an offset outwards 1/4 inch, so that way we know. Oh, okay, I see what happened. We're not, let's undo that. We're not closed here, see that? The body is not closed. So if you hide all those other pieces, you'll see this not closed here. And you definitely want that to be closed. So zoom in, grab your line tool, snap to that end, snap to that end. Whoops. It didn't do it. Snap to that end. There we go. Snap to that end. And then select everything and join. Okay, now we're good. Now you can go back to offset and do the 1/4 inch offset outward, and that's how much material this is going to remove when it cuts. And that's important because you want to put your pin right there. So your pin holes, I'm using 1/4 inch pin holes. Depends on what you're using. They're just a metal pin about, I don't know, inch and a half long. Mine are 1/4 inch in diameter. So they're a round pin. They're just metal. You can get those at a hardware store. You can order them from Amazon. I'll put some links in the description. And so what you want to do is make sure you stay pretty far away from that, that line, because this is all material that's going to be removed when your 1/4 inch end mill, cuts out the body. So we want to go back to, we want our center line to be visible, and you can throw a guide line on there if you want. Okay, and then I'm going to create a circle that is 1/4 inch in diameter. And you just put it on the guideline. You could even do it to this point here too, since it snaps. See, that way you know you're right there. So now this is the part that you really need to get right, because this pin over here needs to be the exact same distance from the center as this point is from the center. There's a way to do it in Aspire here. This is copy along vectors, I believe, if that's the way. Yep. So let me just see if this copy, select object to copy, followed by one or more vectors to create copies along the vector. So since we already have a line here, we could use that. Let's get this guideline out of the way. It's actually in the way. So we'll grab edit object, we'll select this, we'll go to this create copy along vectors, copy object, select copy, followed by, I think you hold shift and hit copy. So there you go. So now you specify the distance between the copies. Let's take the measure tool and use that instead. Okay. So that would be distance, yep, 9.5. So we'll call it 19 would be the overall length. So go back to select that, go back to copy object, select your middle line. Distance between would be, what did I say, 19. And then number of copies is 1. And hit copy. And it didn't copy. Oh, you need two copies. There it goes. Okay. So there it is. So now there's your pin. So these are equal distance from one another. Hopefully that made sense. That I kind of was remembering how to do that as I went along. So funny thing is, this line is already, it's in that file. It's the center line in that file. It's already an equal distance from. So you're safe to just snap the center of your pin circle to the ends of those lines, as long as you didn't move it or anything. And then if you want to drag center guideline over, you can see that it clears this. Not that it matters, because you've got, this is way, you got a lot of material here, and this is going to be pretty close over here. But okay, so let's grab those. We'll grab that one and this one, so hold shift, and then we'll move to layer, new layer, guide pins. And we'll make those, how about just, what? Running out of colors. Purple. Okay. So this line you can get rid of now because you don't need it. And you can turn on all your other layers if you choose to. And then what I like to do is right click on this and then hit delete empty. Okay, and then turn everything back on. Okay, so there you go. That's the front. And there's a piece on the back that comes through the front. It's the bridge, the hole for the bridge. That's going to be on the back. So what we want to do is click on the outline, right click, copy to layer, or I'm sorry, copy to other side, and then it just unhid my schematic for some reason, but we can turn that back off. So then toggle to the back. So now you see it, the back, the outline of the back, which you're not going to need because you're gonna cut through from the front, but you'll need this to lay everything out. So now, being on the back, you want to import vectors, strap body back, hit open, and it pulls it in, and it's rotated the wrong way. So you want to come over here to rotate and 180 degrees, close that, and then you can make sure that your center here is centered, here. This is you're seeing those lines from the front. So that's your center. So now you're going to want to center this. So grab your transform mode and then hover over till it sort of snaps on that, and then move it. And then it'll snap to, see, so it's right over that. And it's off a little bit, so zoom in and make sure that it's right on there. That's good. And you can see the body's off just a little bit. I don't know, that could just be their drawing wasn't quite lined up. So let's leave it where it's at, because I think the center is what is going to be most important here. So we'll get rid of the outline of the back that we just imported. And then you don't need these, you don't need the middle Well, you leave that there, I guess. Don't need this. Don't need these holes because you already have them. And I'm not sure what that is, so that we can get rid of. And then leave that, that's where your belly carve is going to go. Just a guideline for it. And then delete that lettering there. Okay. So let's real quick refer to our schematic to see if this is positioned in the right spot. So that's another good reason to move the schematic so that it's in line. And actually it needs to be rotated because we're working the other direction. So if you right click over that, I don't know why it's, oh, I got two of those? No, I don't. What is this import strat body? Oh, that's the back. So let's call that back. Rename back. Just so we don't get confused. Okay. So now go to your schematic, right click over it, select layer vectors, so it selects everything. Come over here to, where is it? Rotate 180 degrees. And it's going to move slow because there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of information there. And then come over here to edit objects, transferred mode. And then zoom in. I think there's a center mark. There's a center line, but I don't know if there's a center point. So just kind of grab it along the center here and move it right to where it would be. Okay, so it's off a little bit, so let's center that up a little bit more. And then you can use your arrow keys to move. There, that's pretty good. Okay, that's pretty good. So now we can cross-reference, see that thing that we imported is off a little bit, but see then it's not exactly lining up with this, but for the sake of trying to get that, because if you don't get the bridge, you know, the trim pocket and all that stuff right, it really kind of messes things up. So we're going to go kind of by the schematic. We're going to center these guys. So we'll center on one of these screw holes. There, that's pretty good. Okay. So now we're centered. You can see we're centered on those. So then you can see the bridge, the section of the bridge that we imported on the back is kind of off. It's not exact. So we're going to switch to the back. So you can see the schematic now. That's pretty cool, right? So now we're going to, let's move this, the center line and the center target, to its own layer. So we'll call this back center line. Whatever, we'll make it yellow again. And then we want to grab this whole bridge and trim pocket, and then we're going to center it on the schematic. So just drag it over. And then use your arrow keys. See, so it's pretty close now. So that should do. So it's not quite centered. Whoops, this moved. I don't know why that moved. I must have had it selected, so. But that, I don't know, that really doesn't matter. That center line is okay. Okay, so now this belly carve, we'll move that to its own layer, new layer, belly contour. Contour. Okay, so now this should be in the right position. It's kind of falls on in between these screws, centered in, you know, in the bridge, the screws for the bridge, because that's, you know, all this fits down in here when you're installing that trim and bridge and everything. Okay, so now this part of this cutout is for the front. So what we're going to do is first we're going to move it just a tad so it lines up with that schematic a little bit more, because it can be a little bit bigger. That's fine. So now we're going to select these two things, and even though we don't need both of those, you'll see here in a minute, just go ahead and copy that to other side. Okay, and now you can get rid of that line. And then, so that this is going to be a different cutout from this. So let's call this, let's move it to layer, new layer. Let's call it the trim block cavity. So that's because that's where the trim block kind of comes down inside, or all the way through rather. So let's make that whatever, blue. And then this is going to be where the, you know, the claw and the springs go for the trim, and you want to extend those lines out so it overlaps when it's cutting. So you want to select that, come over here to your edit object node, edit, grab that, move it just a little bit. Make sure it stays in line. See, that dotted line tells you you're in line with the original line, so you're not shifting or anything. Okay, so now and you can do this too. You can select these points and then hit this join also. See, that's the same thing. It's easier than drawing a line. See, and then it's closed. So you can do it that way too. And then we'll click on this let's go back up to here. See, this one's labeled back, so we're going to call it trim claw spring cavity. Okay. And then your body outline, you're not going to have to worry about that for the back. Again, like I said, that's, you know, so that's just, there's going to be a lot of extra layers and lines and things like that that you won't even need when you go to cut this thing out, but it's good to have there for reference. Okay, so let's go to the front and we'll show you, turn off this mess here. Okay, so now you see this. Well, really all you want is this smaller of the two. So if you come over here to this interactive trim and then click that line, it removes that line. And I think this is automatically joined. Yep. And I don't like the green because it's the same color as the pocket below it. I like things to all be on sort of their own color. And you want to move this to its own layer as well. So right click on it, select it, right click, go to new layer, move to new layer, and we'll call this bridge cavity or bridge pocket. And whatever color. Okay, there you go. So there's all the pockets front and back. And the only thing we don't have, well, we don't have the tool paths yet, but the only thing we don't have is the arm contour and the belly contour. So if you follow some of my other tutorials, you'll be able to do those inside Vectric. If you don't want to use a 3D program there's a way to do sweeps and things like that that make pretty good results. I'm going to show you how to do it in Fusion 360 because I think that's it's not easier, but I think it gives you a better result. So we're going to do that. So we'll do the arm contour and belly contour in Fusion 360, import those in as STL models, but just cut out those pieces, and then we'll do the edge, the radius edges around the guitar as a tool path, so that you don't have to model. So that will be, let's call that phase 2. This is phase 1, so we'll wrap phase 1 up here, and then we'll do the modeling next, and then maybe we'll do the radius, outside radius and tool paths in a third video, because the outside radius is the edge radius for the back and the front is a tool path. So okay, so there you go. There's part 1. So if you're following along, if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in the comments, and we'll get this going, and we'll have a completed guitar after maybe a month. I don't know. These tutorials take a long time to make. I think I did pretty good with this one. There's going to be minimal editing on this one, but I think going forward there's going to be some editing, and then actually taking this out to the machine, cutting everything out, checking for flaws, making sure everything cut good, and if it didn't, coming back, trying to make like if there's a flaw or something, try to figure out what's going on, correct the files, and hopefully we'll have finished parts that we can put a guitar together, and then this series will be done. I'm not doing any more on the Stratocaster, because I've been working on this one for a long time, and I have yet to do a complete build. So once I do the complete build, then that's it. As far as if you have questions or something, then I'll address those, but I want to try to move on to some other things, because these are really time-consuming videos to make. So, but I'm happy to help any way I can, and I think this will work out, and this will be a fun project. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.